President Jessica, and welcome to so many friends of the Rotary Club of Cleveland. Thank you, Jessica, for being at the welcome party last night at the airport, and to honorary member Dan Hansen for the incredible tour of the Cultural Gardens this morning with President-Elect Stephanie. I understand that Dr. Lyle Curry has a brief presentation to make to Stephanie. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Curry just made a presentation on behalf of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens and on behalf of One World Day on August 27th. We regretted that Stephanie's trip was not just 1 week longer, so thank you, Dr. Curry. Only a few Rotarians in the Rotary world have the opportunity to introduce a president or a president-elect of Rotary International, and I am humbled by this. Rather than taking time to share what would be only a glimpse into her incredible background, I prepared a handout on each of your tables that talks about her humanitarian service and her involvement with Rotary International. My husband and I have known Stephanie for over 30 years. And I would like to tell you about the person and the world leader today. When COVID hit, all world travel for Rotary leaders and many of you in this room came to a halt. She immediately jumped into action. She scheduled Rotary Zoom meetings with districts, zones around the world, touching thousands of Rotarians, sharing her message of hope and promise. There are a number of Rotarians that you would never have had a chance to meet without those meetings that she structured. That is why when she was nominated for president, I referred to her as the Rotary President for all people. Not only just for those who are doing good in the world, but for those who serve, whose lives are better for having touched by Rotary. She considers herself a Rotarian above all else, but she is still and yet the second woman to ever serve as Rotary International President in a 118-year history. For 5 years, Stephanie led Rotary's strategic planning process for what is now an 118-year-old international organization, guiding us toward greater relevance and giving us more tools to face today's challenges head-on with courage, optimism, and creativity. She's a true visionary, but always practical in her approach and always keeping in mind the many differences that need to be respected and accounted for in the Rotary world. Stephanie is really someone who truly defines the word partnership as she continuously working her magic and successfully weaving together a mosaic, which is one of my most favorite international words. Mosaic of people and talents. She is both compassionate and passionate. And there is a difference. There is a big difference. Wolf Wilkinson, a past president of Rotary International from Canada, our good neighbor from the north, once stated, "The magic of Rotary is that it allows ordinary people to do extraordinary things." And Stephanie, in my estimation, does something very few people can do. She takes ordinary people and makes them believe that they can do extraordinary things. And that is a true leader. Ladies and gentlemen, and it is her time to serve us. Family of Rotary and honored guests, please join me in welcoming to the podium President-Elect Stephanie Urchick.
Beverly, family of Rotary and friends of Rotary, let me begin by saying how overwhelmed I am that you have all chosen to be here this afternoon. So I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to come and be at this special meeting. You know, many of you, as I was greeting some of you in the hall, said, you know, I'm here just to meet you. But you don't understand, the honor is mine to meet all of you. So I really am excited to be here. I tell people everywhere that this is the best part of the job, getting to meet the family of Rotary. 95% of the job is bliss, there's only about 5% that's really not, so good, but that's in any job that we have. So this afternoon, what I thought I would do was share a little bit of background about me and being a Rotary president, what that means, and then talk to you a little bit about Rotary and the magic it has in communities, and finally, probably some Q&A, because you're sitting there with a president-elect in the front of the room, and I know that there are some of you that are going to have questions. So let me start with a little bit about me. So I realize that we have a mixed audience. Not everybody in the room is a Rotarian. So one of the first things that I wanted to address is, what the heck does a Rotary International President do? What do you do as President-elect? You go eat lunch and stand up and talk? Is that what you do? No, that's not entirely what we do. It's part of the role, but the very first bullet point on the description, or job description for President of Rotary says, inspire and motivate Rotarians around the world. And I expand that a little bit because I like to be public-facing with my messaging, which is why I'm so excited that there are non-Rotarians in this audience today. Because we really need to help the world understand the magic of our organization and what we do. So I expand that first one a little bit, and I say that I like to inspire and motivate all kinds of people to service. If you have the heart and the hands for service, then I want you to know about Rotary and how important it is. So I think all of you know that I am from Western Pennsylvania. And yes, regrettably, I am a Steelers fan. But a fan is a fan is a fan. And I have been in the Cleveland Stadium, and I've been in the dog pound, and you all are very nice to Steeler fans. So thank you. I appreciate it. I cannot say that when I go to Baltimore. I cannot say that. So thank you. But I get a question frequently. How does somebody from Western Pennsylvania go from being in a Rotary Club in Pennsylvania to being in Evanston as the president of Rotary International? And the simple answer is, I just kept showing up. People would say, you want to do this? Can you do this? And I'd say, yes. Can you do this? Yes. And the only time I said no is if it was followed by the word problem. No problem. No problem. I went to my club and had the opportunity to do so many different jobs at the club level. An interesting thing about my very first Rotary Club, when I joined it, I found out that in my club there was a past president of Rotary International in the same club. So those of you who have been to a Rotary meeting, if you're not Rotarian, and those of us who are in Rotary, you know what happens at a Rotary meeting. We start talking Rotary. We start using the acronyms. So here I am, a brand new Rotarian. And I get to a meeting, and the president stands up and he starts talking about the DG is going to come visit after the COL. And I looked over to the past president, his name was Chuck Keller, and I said, Chuck, what in the world are they talking about? So I was lucky. I had a Rotary godfather in my first Rotary Club. And then as I continued to move through Rotary, there were two very special gentlemen who also became Rotary godfathers to me. One was past Vice President Lou Piccone, and the other one is sitting in this room. It's past Director Michael Johns. So I've had the fortune of having some great mentors along the way. So after my Rotary Club experience, I looked through the district, and I became district governor, and that's how I met David and Ghent-Skrzynski in the governor role, and then went through the zone, and became a trustee of the Rotary Foundation, and then a director, and then I ended up here. 5 years ago, if you would have said, Stephanie, do you want to be president of Rotary International? I would have said, you're crazy, I would never do that job. Why did I change my mind? I had the great honor of helping Rotary develop its first strategic plan. which is now called an action plan because we are people of action. But because I did that, I had an opportunity to be involved in all the research and all the studying and all the assessment we did of our organization. And I realized that where we are is a critical point and a good point, and that I had the skills that could benefit the organization. And that's why I decided that I wanted to be considered as a candidate. And so I ended up being nominated as president, and then I'm president-elect this year, and next year I will serve with all of you who are in Rotary as president of the organization. The first service project that I ever did in Rotary had to do with youth exchange. Our youth exchange program, those of you in Rotary know about it, it is a magic program because it's how we change the world and prove that we are peace builders, one student at a time. When each of these students go out, they represent their country, their culture, their language, and they create peace. They're in a new place for a year, and they represent Rotary. And that is one of our best programs that we have to engender peace. So as a young Rotarian, my very first month, President says, you know, we have this youth exchange student coming, and we have, you know, a host family and this and that. Well, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, so it really wasn't a good idea for me to be a host family. But I said, how can I help? And he said, we need somebody to go pick up students from the airport. And I said, okay. So I went to the Pittsburgh airport, and I picked up 3 students. One was staying with our club, and with 2 local clubs. One young man was from France, one was from Spain, and the third was from Thailand. And so when we got to the airport, I went to get them, and I met them. Now, I was working at California University of Pennsylvania. And those of you who know geography know that there is no body of water, no ocean in western Pennsylvania. There's a river, the Monongahela, but there's no ocean. So we get to the baggage claim, and one of the students says, I need to go to oversized luggage. I said, all right. So we go to oversized luggage, and down the chute comes this surfboard. And I said, what are you planning to do with that? I'm going to California University. So I had to explain to the student that California University of Pennsylvania had no water. He could use his surfboard. So he learned a great deal about geography that day, but he also learned about our culture, and we learned from him. It was an amazing reverse mentorship arrangement. And so youth exchange is always going to have a place in my heart because it was my first service opportunity. I also want to talk with you a little bit about Rotary and communities. When a Rotary Club accepts the challenge of our avenues of service and our areas of focus, and every Rotary Club does the same thing, if they're active. They look at the community and they say, what can we make better? What can we do to make this community better? And Rotary Clubs around the world, I ask them the same question. I say, if you went away, would this community notice? And there is no doubt in my mind that if these Rotary Clubs who are represented today, if you went away, that Northeast Ohio, that they would notice because you're doing such amazing things. Amazing things. Communities start in our backyard, but they don't end there. Many Rotary Clubs are also doing things around the globe. And some of you may be aware that our corporate project in Rotary is to end polio. And sometimes people will say, what are you talking about? I haven't seen polio. We don't have polio in the United States. No, we don't have it anymore as wild polio virus, but that doesn't mean that we're free from polio. If you were paying attention to the news 2 years ago, you may recall that there was a man in New York who contracted polio while he was traveling, and he brought it back here to the United States on a plane. Fortunately, our medical communities saw it early, they found it in the wastewater, and they dealt with it quickly, and they did mop-up campaigns, and we don't have to worry. Our children don't have to worry, our grandchildren don't have to worry. But when Rotary started working on polio eradication, we did that in the mid-1980s. At that time, there were 350,000 cases of polio a year. Today, as I stand here, I'll tell you there are 7. We only have 2 countries now. A little part of Pakistan and a little part of Afghanistan, where we still have the wild polio virus. Why do Rotarians still push and do this, support for polio eradication? Because until it's gone everywhere, it's not gone anywhere. We need it to be gone completely, just like smallpox is gone completely, so that our children don't have to worry about it. We had a scare. We had a scare with the man in New York. And there have been some other flare-ups around the world. So that's why Rotarians are so committed to it. It's our corporate project. We will continue to do it because it's a promise we made to children of the world. And Rotary clubs around the world make other promises to children. I understand I'm going to visit a couple of projects tomorrow that Rotary clubs are working on with young people in these communities. And that's fantastic. I've never been to a Rotary club anywhere that doesn't do something for young people. And that's important because they become our future. Now, president nominees are usually asked to think about what are your priorities? What are the things that you want to put a spotlight on as you move into the presidential year? Well, I think there are 3 that are going to be important to me, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. One of them is membership growth. Those of you who are in Rotary, you're going to hear plenty about it. Dale's going to hear much about it when he and I are in Orlando in January for training. But you're going to hear more about that. And one of them is continuity. And what that means is, we have wonderful programs that we do in Rotary. Why would we stop them after a year? We do girls' empowerment. Our current president is engaged in promoting mental health awareness and removing the stigma. Why would we stop doing that? So continuity will be important, but I'm not going to talk about that one. I am going to talk about the 3rd one. What's going to be very important for me to put a spotlight on for all Rotary clubs and non-Rotarians who want to join us is helping to heal a divided world through positive peace by using some of the tools we have in Rotary. Your community here is very much engaged in promoting peace. And we should do that. The world is a mess. I don't care where you live. The world is a mess. But we have tools in Rotary that can help us. We have tools in our communities that can help us, like that beautiful garden that I saw this morning, the cultural garden. Beautiful things that we can use to promote peace. One in Rotary is something that we call our 4-way test. It is a set of 4 statements that we ask Rotarians to live by. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? I say to Rotarians, if everybody lived that 4-way test, instead of just reciting it, wouldn't we get just a little bit closer to having more peace in our communities? So we have the 4-way test. I hope Rotary clubs around the globe will use it. Use it in your high schools. Use it with your Rotaract, your Interact, your Youth Exchange, your Wiley students. Use it and do four-way speech contests. Wrap our hands around it, and let's go back to the basics of how we're organized. We also have something called the Positive Peace Academy, which is an online endeavor that Rotarians have access to. Through their membership, they can reach the Learning Center. We can all become positive peace activators. We also have a project that is also sponsored by the UN called a Peace Pole project. Peace Pole is very much like your beautiful gardens. They are visible representations in the community that show a community that Rotary is about world understanding and peace. They are different sizes. They are made of different materials. There are about 8 people in the United States currently who make them, but they can also be made by a local vocational technical school. You don't have to use one of these little vendors, but it is a pole. And on the pole, the Rotary Master Grant appears, so that people from the community can see, the Rotary Master Grant. It also has a QR code, so that somebody walking through says, "What's Rotary? I don't know what that is." They can take a phone and get more information about Rotary, but most importantly, on each side of the pole, it says, "May peace prevail on earth in the languages represented in your community." They are beautiful representations. So I hope that clubs around the world will think about where could we put a peace pole in this community? One or more. Could we do it at a school? Could we do it in a park? Could we do it in another location? And then urge the community, much like you do here in Cleveland, to use that location for anything that resembles a peaceful gathering, or is a peaceful gathering, promotes unity. Maybe you have choirs in your local churches. So you get a gospel choir and another couple of churches together, and you offer a concert. Something that brings the community together around that peace pole. We also have peace centers around the world. Rotary is, as I mentioned earlier, founded as an organization that promotes world understanding and peace. And one of our premier programs through our Rotary Foundation is our peace centers. We have 7 of them around the world. What we do is take between 60 and 100 people every year who want to earn a master's degree in conflict resolution and peace. And every year those graduates go back to their professions and use it in their profession. It's really a powerful program. Next year, in 25, we'll be opening our newest peace center in the Middle East. It will open in Istanbul. And so when we open it, it will be a big deal. I want media there. I want the public there. We're going to ask our Rotaractors to have a public-facing peace walk so that anybody in the community can join us and walk for peace, much like we're going to walk for polio tonight. So peace is incredibly important as a foundation for what we do, because all of our activities in Rotary are focused around areas. But if we don't have peace, how do you go into a community and put clean water? If we don't have peace, how do you go into a place and feed people? If you don't have peace, how can you build schools and go in and teach children? Peace is fundamental to what we do. I want to tell you a quick story, and then I'll do some Q&A. When I was working for Rotary as a foundation coordinator, one of my jobs for one of our preparation meetings was to get one of these peace fellows and ask that person to come and speak to our incoming leaders. So I said I'd do that. Back up in the year 2007, I was in Nigeria I was there to do a couple of things. I was there to help with the National Immunization Day, to immunize babies against polio. And I was looking for projects that we could help do with clubs here in the United States and clubs in Nigeria. One of the things that happens when you travel internationally, and Past Director Mike can attest to this, you generally stay with wealthy Rotarians, because in other countries, Rotarians are captains of industry. So I was staying with an engineer, and he had a compound. So he had guard dogs, and he had guards with rifles, and he had a driver. So in the morning, the driver picked us up in front of his home, and we started down the road in Lagos, and we were going about 120 miles an hour because there are no speed limits. And we were going really fast, and all at once, the car comes to a screeching halt. And I look in front of the car, and there's a little boy with a machine gun pointing at the driver. And I looked out my window, and there was a little boy pointing a machine gun at me. I have never before or since had a weapon pointed at me, and I was literally scared to death. So I turned to my host. I was going to ask him what's going on, and he just put his finger up. He's not be quiet. So I sat there, my knees are knocking, and I saw the driver get a huge wad of Nigerian money. He put the window down, and he gave it to a little boy. And that little boy waved off the other one. And then the car started again, and off we go. Well, when I finally found my tongue again, because I had swallowed it, I think, I turned to my host and I said, "Hey, dude, what was that?" And he said, "Stephanie, we have an issue here in Nigeria with child soldiering, and that's the only way we know how to help it." So fast forward, and I'm responsible now for getting a speaker from one of our peace dinners. And when I find out who the young man is, I find out his name is Anselm. I go to meet him, and he says, "Oh, Stephanie, I'm very happy to be here at this training meeting." And I asked him, I said, "Anselm, where did you go for your training?" He said, "I went to one of the Rotary Peace Centers, and I earned a certificate in conflict resolution. And I am a police officer in Lagos, and I'm working on child soldiering." So that story is very personal to me, and it's very much part of why I support the Rotary Peace Centers, because they really come home to help us in our communities. These are not all people who are going out to do, work with United Nations and NGOs. Sometimes they're teachers, sometimes they're medical professionals, sometimes they're doctors, lawyers, and sometimes police officers. So, to wrap that all up, peace is important to Rotary. It will continue to be important to Rotary. And I applaud you for all the good work that you do to help your communities see the necessity of one world. And we are all neighbors. And we have to move to a more peaceful world. So I thank you so much for listening to that. Now I'm going to open it up to questions, because I know that, oh man, those hands went up so fast. Okay, do you have an outside voice, or should I bring this to you?
No, that's okay. I can talk. First of all, my name is Ryan. I read in here, I see you come in Vietnam. And I hear about some Vietnam people at Rotary Club and come to my country, build school and all that, like that. And I personally thank you very much for being there for us. And can you tell me, when you were there, where the school you built from, where the city you built from?
Yes, I think the year was 2001, and I was working with a group, and we helped to build the Rotary School of Pennsylvania near Da Nang.
Da Nang, okay.
I'm not sure exactly what village or what location, but that's where it was.
Yeah, I hear that's what they do, and you come in 2001, right? And
Yes.
I've been working in Vietnam since I come from Vietnam, and they say 2001 first school built from there, and I so much appreciate and meet you there here. But I tell you, they brave about the school you guys built, and very happy that you come from U.S. and build school in the Nang area, that where, where First Marine arrived there, you know that. So
Well,
that's
thank
the
you.
school that was wonderful, and
Thank
they
you
were
for
great
your-
about it. So I
thank you
want
for
you
your
to know that.
compliment.
Thank you.
Vietnam is the newest Rotary country in the world. We started more than 20 years ago working in Vietnam, talking about what Rotary does and how important it is, and the mission of Rotary, and it is our most recent Rotary country. So thank you very much.
You picked the right state that were there in Marina. They all talk about it. Still, they talk about today even. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Great. All right. Who else? There's one right next to you. His hand up was real early.
Yes, by the way, Miss Ryan just completed her 10th school in Vietnam, so carrying on. Get started. My name is Joseph Meisner. I am an attorney. I say that in praise of myself. You talked about peace. You were at the gardens. I think you hopefully saw the garden. That's the Ukrainian one?
I did.
All right. What can you do in terms of Rotary and in terms of peace and the Ukraine and trying to reach the lawyer who runs Russia?
Rotary is not a political organization, and we all recognize it is not the people of a country who invaded the people of another country. It's a man who invaded a country. I will tell you this, that Rotary early on responded to the crisis in Ukraine, and we raised somewhere around $16 million in disaster response grants that were given to Rotary clubs who then worked with refugees and in other ways to help support what was happening. I can promise you this, Rotary will be there for rebuilding. We want to make sure. Rotary was there at the end of World War II, and Rotary will be there, and I hope that we can all join together. Our vision statement starts with that word together. Together we're stronger. Together we'll make a difference. So we will be there and we will help with that. In the meantime, Rotary clubs around the world continue to support relief efforts and continue to help Ukraine. Sometimes through our Rotary Foundation, and sometimes simply by, I know somebody, I have family in Ukraine, I have cousins over there, I want to help, what can I do? And that's because in our DNA, we want to make a difference, and we want to make the world better for other people. I think I want to take 2 more questions because the President has to close this meeting. So I see one over here, and then there was one over there. Yes?
Thank you for coming today. I don't have any problem with using my outside voice.
Okay.
Can you give us the secret from the 10,000-foot view of membership? And is the secret to that success membership development or membership retention, or a combination of both?
Yes.
There you go.
There are only 3 ways to grow. I'll tell you why membership growth is important. We are a membership organization that does service. And it's pretty simple. The more hands we have to do service, the more we do. The less hands we have, the less we do. It's that simple. There are only 3 ways to grow membership in Rotary. 1, you can attract people to your legacy club. That's the hardest way to do it. Okay, that's the hardest way, but it can be done. Sometimes it just means taking a look at your club and doing an assessment and saying, what can we do a little differently to make us more attractive? The second way, stop the bleed. We have too many people who come into Rotary and then leave after a while. We have to stop the bleed. Is it their fault that they're leaving? They're not leaving Rotary. They're leaving a Rotary club. They're leaving something that they didn't find in the Rotary Club. So get to know your members as they come in the door. Ask them, what attracted you to our club? What would you like to do? What are your passions? What causes are you interested in? Find out who they are. Don't ask them when they're leaving and do an exit interview. What a stupid time to ask people why they're leaving. They've already made up their mind. So get to know people as they're coming in. Retention. As an organization, we bring somewhere around 150,000 new members in every year, but we lose 161,000. That's not a sustainable track record. So we have to stop that bleed. And the third way, the proven way, the research shows it's how Rotary is growing, where we're growing, is to start in clubs. our Council on Legislation opened the door for us here. I'm so proud of Rotary. In the past 10 years, we have begun to meet people where they are. For 108 years, we didn't change the club model meeting at all. But the world changed. The world changed. So we now have e-clubs, passport clubs, satellite clubs, impact clubs, all kinds of models that can help people do service if they want to serve, but do it their way. You know, there's a story I tell Rotarians. This will date myself, and these young people won't even know what I'm talking about. When I was young, I would go out disco dancing, okay? And I would wear shoes that were, oh, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches high. And my father would grab me by the shoulder and he'd say, "Where are you going with those shoes on? You're going to kill yourself." I'd say, "Hey, Dad, don't worry. We all know how to walk in them. We all know how to dance in them, because that's how we do it." And I recognize that how I do Rotary is not the way that these young people will do Rotary. They'll do it their way. They'll do it differently. They're going to probably use far more technology and other things that I could ever do, okay? And that's okay. As long as our core values, fellowship, leadership, integrity, diversity, and service stay constant, our 4-way test stays constant, I don't care how they do it. It doesn't matter. We have to invite others to join us. I like all of you who are Rotarians in this room. I love Rotary. I love Rotary. But I also know I don't have 30 or 40 years in front of me to do Rotary. And he does. She does. He does. They all do. Right? We really need to embrace the fact that there are people out there who want to serve. They have the heart and the hands for service. We just need to bring them in. Now, the number one thing I hear, "Oh, I'm not starting a satellite club. It's going to cannibalize my club. They'll all jump into the satellite club." No, my own club did it. It did the opposite. We gained members because we got so energized. We became the mentors for that group. In one night, we inducted members. We went from being a club of 34 to a club of 58 in one night. Think how long it would take you to get that many new members in your legacy club. I love my legacy club. I'm never going to leave it. But I love the fact that we now have a satellite. All right? So those are the 3 ways. So I would ask all of you who are in Rotary to jump on that bandwagon because you love Rotary, and I know you want it to be here and not go away. Thank you for the question. There was one more over here. Did somebody stand up? Yes. Here, I'll give you the microphone. You can ask the question, okay?
How can I help with the exchange program?
Okay. Well, one way you can help is don't forget about it, because eventually you're going to be old enough to be an exchange student, so I hope you'll do that. The other thing is talk to your classmates about it. Tell them about this opportunity, because you know, when I was your age, I didn't have any, those things didn't happen. They might have been around, but we didn't know about them. So talk about it, don't forget about it, and I hope that I'm still around when you're an outbound student going somewhere around the world. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to stop.